Now I know you're thinking, what the hell is this entire contraption? If you do know, hell yeah. If you don't know, I'll get into it in a second. But I've been doing film photography for about 2 years. If you're new to the channel, I talk about digital and film. If you are a continued watcher or a continuous viewer, whatever, you know I've been doing film for a while, and you know that it's one of the things I love doing. But one of the things I've noticed recently when I would send my negatives to get developed and scanned is that I feel like I was getting my scans back. I don't want to use the word low quality, but they felt muddy. They felt like it was difficult to you can tell the image from like what's being captured. Now I've gotten good scans and then I've gotten bad scans. And obviously some people would say, oh, you know, the scans really kind of depend on how properly exposed your image. You know, if it's too overexposed, it'll look a little bit muddy. If it's too underexposed, it can look more dark and you can't really bring anything out from the shadows. But ever since buying this thing, again, I'll get into it, I've kind of noticed there has been a difference in how I'm scanning versus with the lab scans. Now, a lot of lab scans are using old software. One of the famous ones is called Frontier, and you have to use an older computer to use that scanner. So already it's kind of outdated, I guess you would say. The machine itself is also outdated, and there are still people who do repairs on these machines, but it's not a lot. And I know there are developers who are trying to create a more like updated software that kind of acts as like a remote IP Windows, so you can add it to your MacBook and then you can scan it. But also, that thing is huge. I in my office, I don't really have room for that. So this is my second best option. What this is a film scanning kit. This one is from Negative Supply. This is their Pro model. So if you look in their website, you can see different types of riser. This is what this thing is. You'll see different plates, lights, setups, whole thing. And what a film scanning kit is pretty much you get to mount your mirrorless camera onto this riser. You're shooting down towards a source of light that illuminates the negative. So that way you can actually see the negative you're taking a photo of. And that's what this is it is the process of taking photo of a photo. However, you have a little bit more control on the exposure, and I guess you would say like the resolution. That's the best way I can say with using this. Now, obviously, this whole thing is very pricey. There are other substitutes that you can do this, but the main things you really need is a light source, a camera, obviously. It's not recommended, but I do recommend it because you're gonna get better results from it, is a macro lens. And then of course, you can use a tripod that if it allows you to invert so instead of it going up this way, it goes down that way. You kind of get what I'm saying. And then I would recommend getting a leveler to make sure everything's leveled. But that's really you need. You can get other add-ons, like I have these cloths to kind of, and to like hold my negatives, a little spray to get the dust around. And then I have this static cloth to wipe my negatives clean, because obviously lint, dust, fur, it gets attached to it. So anyways, that's what this is. This is what it is. And this has completely changed the way I'm going to proceed forward with film photography. I think now I'm just gonna send my stuff to get developed. I don't think I'm at the developing stage. Maybe one day I will, but not right now. But I would send my stuff to get developed, ask them to not scan it, not to cut it, leave it as is, and then scan here. And there are some crazy benefits on why this is a little bit better. And I mentioned one of them, and is resolution. So this is a 7R6 from Sony. And this camera is really new. It has a much newer sensor. And this shoots at a 66 megapixel image. So already high top notch. If you're trying to blow these images up, let's say you capture a really good landscape photo, this would be a good solution for it, because there's a thing called pixel shift, and you can able to pretty much like, you're taking a photo on almost each corner, or I guess each section of your sensor, and it widens that resolution. I think, I could be wrong, I think a 66 megapixel, if you're doing 16 frames of a pixel shift, it's about relatively 240 megapixels. So that's a huge file, and that's pretty ginormous. This also allows me to shoot in lossless RAW. I was about to say compressed. Lossless RAW, so it kind of already is giving me more information, more details in the image I'm taking. So now I have more and more, I guess, leverage on my scans. And I think I'm gonna, like I said, I'm gonna continue doing it this way, because this has just been so much easier. It has been way better in a lot of the results. But that's not the final stop. The next stop is Lightroom, and I'll dive into my workflow on that. because there's a plugin you can buy called Negative Labs, and then you install that plugin into your Lightroom, which allows you to do kind of a quicker, easier process of converting the negatives. And I'll dive into that later, but I kind of want to show you like the workflow of what this process looks like, and then obviously going into Lightroom. So let's hop into this. So I don't know if you can kind of see, I already have a negative in here. This is a static brush, so it removes more lint, more dust. But I feed it through this carrier, and it's this box about this big, that wide. And pretty much what it does is that it acts like as like a lifter to bring it closer to the lens in a sense, but also further away from light, so it's not like a weird overexposure kind of issue. But I feed it through this negative carrier, and Negative Supplies sells a 35 millimeter, a 120 roll, 4x5, and I think they also do a 220, so you have other adapters to use, and that's kind of nice to have. But anyways, so I already have my image kind of feed through this here, and I'm gonna adjust this real quick. So this is a shot in Venice of one of like the famous photo booths that kind of around, not Venice, around Florence. And so this is where a lot of it is at. So right now, my main goal is first, obviously check exposure. So what I normally do, actually, is I open my lens a little bit wider. So let me kind of open this a little bit. I keep my ISO at 100. I never move it up. I want to keep it there because I don't want to add any more grain to already what this film already has, because I think this is a 400. So anyways, I bring it up. I want to make sure everything that I want in focus is in focus. So I kind of don't, I want to look at the text. So the Foto Automatica, I want to make sure that is in focus, and it kind of is. I use peaking because peaking allows me to kind of get a better view of what's being in focus. I think in photography in general, or in videography, definitely always use peaking. If you can't tell if something's in focus, it's helped me save, well, time, I guess you would say, and not guess if it's in focus. So anyways, I do that. I also focus on the grain because I want to make sure the grain is in there, because a lot, if it's, especially if a fine grain film, I want it to be presentable. I don't want to lose that grain. So that's another thing I focus on. So anyways, so I bring this up, open at f5.6. Now all macro lenses are different. So Google that lens and see what is the sharpest aperture of your lenses. This one is the Sony one, 90 mil, and it says the sharpest is between f4 to f5.6. I'm gonna do it at f.56. I haven't had any issues so far with it. And then again, I wanna make sure everything's in focus, so I'm gonna kind of readjust my focus again. Let's see, perfect. And then obviously this is really underexposed. So what I'm gonna do now is kind of expose it to all the way to the right, but I gotta be careful, I don't wanna clip it. So what I like to do, especially if it's an image I really, really like, I'll do it at kind of where the histogram is showing everything is pushed to the right, and then I'll do one where it's a little bit off, where everything doesn't look like it's peaking. And obviously with this, I would recommend, because you're using a lower shutter speed, set it to a timer, or if you have a remote, use a remote. I don't have a remote, I can use my phone technically, but I just set it to a timer. So everything looks good, and then I'm gonna set a timer. So it takes the first image, obviously. And then I'm gonna do it again at 1/20th, and just see how that looks. Perfect. And what's cool about this carrier is that there's a dial that allows me to like rotate and turn, or it allows me to pull the film. So here's another shot. This is my wife. Yeah, it's a shot of my wife. She was looking at it. So again, I do the same process. I open up wider to kind of see what I'm working with. Obviously, adjust the shutter speed. And then focus. Let's see what's in focus. Perfect. And then I open this at f5.6. Push it all the way to the right. Now this one here, I'll keep it at 1/15 because it's almost at the end of the histogram, and I think that's gonna be a little perfect for me. And make sure everything's in focus again. Perfect. Perfect. And then obviously I'm gonna do a little bit few more of negatives. I feel like with one roll, I've realized it takes me about maybe, yes, Beanie, I'll feed you. Sorry, my cat is ready for lunchtime, but it's not lunchtime yet. I feel like going through one roll takes me maybe about like 2 to 3 minutes. However, and let me show you, this is my kind of issue right now from the labs I go to, because they already scanned this roll, they come out looking like this. Or sorry, I didn't even show the image. They look like this. They're only 4 frames, and so with that dial that I have to like push it through first manually, and then use the dial to push it through. So now going forward, I'm going to ask them not to cut it, leave as is, because obviously it's going to make it anything easier. Anyways, I'm going to take a few more, and then we're going to run into Lightroom and kind of show the workflow on that. All right, so pulling up these files into my Lightroom, one of the things I kind of would advise people to do is not crop yet, because what we need to do is kind of actually adjust the white balance. So that's always the first step I do, adjusting the white balance, and then from there I would crop. I'm trying to get better at like finding out where my like the carrier of the camera and like the edge of my frame like matches. So I'm kind of cropping while I'm also talking. I'm still trying to find where that edge begins and where it stops, because sometimes I will crop or cut off a lot of my like images, and I'm like, oh great, I messed that up, you know? So I'm still working on it. I'm still trying to figure it out. Sometimes it's hard because it's just lighting reasons. You can't really see the edges, I guess you would say. But anyways, this is kind of a whole shebang of how I pretty much run it. So let me kind of actually rotate this. Perfect, cool. So I mentioned about the plugin called Negative Labs, and so you can get a free trial just to test it out. I think there's 2 other softwares, but this is kind of the more highly rated, highly suggested version that people always say use. Because if you don't use that plugin, you have to go through the whole process. It's not hard, but it's kind of sometimes time consuming. That way you got to go to your tone curves and you kind of have to adjust, and it doesn't look that bad, but you got to fix every little thing. You know, you got to go into the colors, you got to fix this, blah, blah, blah. You know, so it's a lot. So let me just kind of reset this channel. Let me reset all channels actually. So like I said, Negative Supply is a such easy way to do this. There is a free version. I end up paying for it. I think it's only $100, and like you got a licensing for life, I believe. So anyways, I pulled up Negative Lab right here. Already there's some stuff. It says type of negatives. So if you're using Ektachrome, which is a positive slide, you would do positive, but in this case, using negatives. My source is a digital camera. And then obviously color model, do whatever you want. I don't have any like, oh, this needs to be this. I just keep it with Frontier. Sometimes I use Naristu, but Frontier is usually just standard. Border buffer, 0%, because I'll just crop if I need to. And then pre-saturation, I just leave as default, but you can also do what you want to do. I'm not saying this is how you need to do it, but that's just the way to do it. So anyways, then just look how simple it is. I didn't do anything. I just hit convert one negative, and let's see what it says. Boom! Look at that. That's crazy good. And in fact, I would just leave it like this. This is me properly exposed on my camera, but also as well as a properly exposed film. I'm not gonna adjust anything. I'm gonna leave as is, because actually this looks really, really, really good. The only time I'll ever make adjustments is like these are here, the exposure and brightness, as well as maybe a little bit of lights and darks, but I don't do anything else. I try not to mess with it, because I feel like based on the lighting of outside, as well as like the warmth and all that stuff, all the other factors that play in creating this one particular image, I just leave as is. So anyways, I hit apply. I don't touch anything. There are some standard stuff like tone profiles that you can maybe adjust if you wanted to. There are like little presets. So you have like LMPs, positive, you know, rich, soft, Negative Labs, you have Cinestill, you have Frontier, Fuji Superior. You have all these kind of presets in a sense where you can just kind of make the adjustments as you want. So I hit apply, and then look at that. I mean, you see the grain. Obviously it's not gonna look incredibly sharp, but compared to like what I was getting from the labs, this is so much better in my personal opinion. So let me do the other one real quick, because that was the other one where we were like, I was like, oh, I'm gonna actually adjust the exposure and let's see if there's a major difference. And the thing is that a lot of labs have their scanners to set to auto exposure. So like it will do the exposure based on, you know, how the highlights look and all that, but sometimes it can overexpose it or make it really look faded. Is this properly cropped? Cool. And then, oops, wait, I just did a mistake. Command Z. I didn't do the white balance. But anyways, yeah, some of these softwares that they use, not softwares, the scanners they use, they just set it to auto expose because they can just throw the rolls of film and then just kind of go through as many as they can, which I guess is okay and you know, obviously saves them time, but this is just a little bit better doing this way. So not a major difference. Actually, I'll just hit apply. And actually, I'll come back to this, but you know, I like both. They're good. This is a little bit more overexposed, so then I know, okay, like, I want to stay between 1/20th, apologies. I want to stay between 1/13th and 1/15th. This is actually not bad, but let's say I wanted to make it darker. I obviously can adjust the exposure. I can adjust the contrast if I want to make it a little contrasty, and same thing with the brightness, I can do those. But like I said, I don't usually touch those, especially if I know my film is properly exposed. I'll just leave as is, but you know, this is just an example. If we go to another one real quick, let me white balance this, and crop. It's kind of like awkward silence if you're just watching me. We'll close. Let me rotate this real quick. Oops. Perfect. You can see right there. There's a piece of either that's my hair or a lint, but that's why I use a static cloth to clean your rolls and a glove and a blower, because you get stuff like that. We're gonna convert and see how this looks. Bruh, that's again another good one. I would leave this as is. I think it's beautiful, mainly because my wife's in it, but also because it's just also properly exposed and I like the way the color looks. Leave as is. Let's do another one. This one here from Japan. Funny thing is, I don't know what this black dot is, but I'm just gonna leave it as is. And I'm gonna leave the white borders. I'm not gonna crop it because I'm gonna show you something really cool. I might actually crop it later, but you know, same thing. Control N. Oops, not now. Convert one image. And then, so this is underexposed. So then what I would do is then maybe go back into Lightroom or my camera and make the adjustments. But you can do that here. I'll adjust the brightness, adjust the lights, adjust the darks. This is where it starts to dip into the fades. And this is where like an auto exposure kind of comes to play with those things. So you like, they're obviously gonna bring it to the blacks, like increase it, and then it's gonna look faded. So I try not to do that. You have this thing called lab glow, which kind of, you know, eliminates a glow to the thing that you would see in some labs get done. Same thing with the fade. You know, you can get that like ultra fade and stuff. I personally don't like the fade, especially the fact that I shoot on like my Leica. I know those lenses on here are top notch. And then depending on what roll you film, if you know this is a Kodak Gold, you can go to like the white balance and hit Kodak and it'll make the adjustments. I think this was an Ultramax. So I will just leave as is, and I just want to make sure like it's properly exposed. I would probably go back on my camera and adjust it because this is 1/13th. I would probably pump it to like 1/12th, maybe 1/10th. I will say no on this image though. I mean, look how more detailed that is. I did have to shoot this at a lower exposure because of the clouds, so I know that for a fact. And then we're gonna do one more to kind of, you know, show how this works. But it's honestly more, it's fun. I think it's personally fun. This is just me doing it for myself. And actually, before I finish cropping this, I gotta do the white balance. And then cropping, perfect. I'm hoping this is a good one. I think it's the last one that I was really hoping for. And then I gotta flip this over. Perfect, Control N, convert. Boom, look at that. And I think this was shot on Kodak Gold. So you have this really gold emulation, the ultra fine gain. So this was Kodak 400, I believe. So the grain is a little bit finer. If I felt like this is too orange, like I said, I can just go back and adjust it if I feel like it's too orange, but you can also make sure you don't want to ruin. So I'd probably just leave it like that if I felt like it was too orange. But again, I try not to adjust the white balance unless I need to. Like if it was a cloudy day and I shot on Kodak Gold and I don't have that warmth from gold, then I would adjust it myself. But honestly, this looks perfect. I actually want to look at this one. I know I said one more, but hold on. Let me fix this real quick. Actually, I messed that up. I just kind of want to see. Beep, 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 beep. Okay, cool. Making noises because I'm trying to do this fast without like messing things up. Obviously, it's not going to be the perfect crop, but you do what you got to do. Perfect. Okay, cool. Close. And then rotate this, and then Control N. Convert. Let's actually do Nuristu and kind of see if there's going to be a difference. Not really a difference, in my personal opinion, because if we hit convert, we hit unconvert photo, and we do frontier. Let's see. Oops, I'm gonna do that one more time. Convert. Yeah, still the same. So you kind of see what I'm saying, where there's not really a major difference, but again, I would make the adjustments here, adjust the brightness, because I feel like it's a little bit underexposed. That could have been my fault, because again, if you look in this corner, the sun is facing that way, so I am kind of fighting against the sun. Adjust the white balance if I felt like to. And then, yeah, that's about it. I would leave as is. I wouldn't want to push the contrast, because look how that looks. You could bring it down if you feel like it is too contrasty. Because again, I'm shooting on my camera, so maybe there is already an added contrast from that sensor. So that's kind of what I would do. But other than that, I mean, this looks perfect. And you know, like, you can already see the major differences. If I actually pull up a negative, already you can tell the difference. Look at this one, look at this image versus if I just move this to the right. Like, look how different this is. And this is what I'm talking about, where they might have used an auto exposure on this, and then it like just faded out the highlights, it faded out the darks. And you know, here, like, look at the detail. If I have zoom in here, and it holds itself. So, and that's what I'm saying. And like I said, I use Leica lenses, so I know that they're sharp images, and that they're high quality. I guess that's the best way to say it. If you look at the other examples, here's this one. Again, this is they're using, oops, let me zoom out. Again, it's blown out, but again, they're using auto exposure compared to what I've already did. And then I think that dot was probably by me on accident, because I don't see it on here. So that's why you gotta be careful with your negatives. Again, here's the other one with my wife. See the major differences. There's not like a weird fade. It looks better. It looks perfect. And then let's see, again, I don't have this one popped up, but you get my point. Scanning with a camera is much better. It's actually much faster. If you're using like the Epson V800 scans, those take longer. This thing here, like I said, I can go through a roll in less than 2 minutes. So if I have 10 rolls, I'm spending about 20 minutes to go through 10 rolls. That's not bad. And if I have a workflow, I just there is a company called Photomatica, I forgot what it's called, but they make an automated one, and that is something I will eventually get down the road. But this is just start of the beginning, and I can't wait to also, because I've offered my friends, I was like, hey, let me scan your negatives. I want to show you like the major differences. And also, it's saving me money. Yes, I spend a lot on this, but it's also saving me money because I'm not wasting it on scans that aren't coming out the way I want them to. So this whole setup is brilliantly done. I can't think of, you know, doing something else. I love film photography. It's such a tangible piece of art that, you know, relates to photography. So like I said, this was worth the investment. If you're looking to scan your own negatives, I would say this is a good route. There are cheaper options. B&H has one. There's a brand, it starts with a V, and actually, where's my phone? If I pull it up, B&H sells one called, let me see if I can get into it. Film scanner. You attach it to the end of your lenses, and I can't find it, but it's on Amazon too. It's by this company called, it starts with a V, Valo 360 or something like that. They sell it where you attach it to the end of your lens like a lens filter. It has a light attachment, and it does the same thing as this. And then you set it on your desk, somehow mounted in a way. I prefer this because it's just a little bit more professional, and it's a much easier to set up. But anyways, this is how I'm now scanning my film, my negatives. If you have more questions, obviously comment down below. I'll do my best to answer them. I will do a review about this. I kind of want to still shoot more, get used to it, and kind of, you know, already there are some pros about this, and there's a few cons that I'm kind of like, ugh. But I hope this video was helpful. Like, again, if you have any questions, comment down below. I'll do my best to answer them, especially if it involves camera settings. I'm happy to dive into that a little bit more. But hopefully this kind of encourages you to scan your own negatives. But also, again, I also want to say, still support your local labs. Go get your rolls of film developed by them. go buy film stock for them because they need it. I'm not saying kick them, like push them all the way to the side. Like, just if you want a higher quality, this is a route to do it. But also if you're just kind of like, hey, that's just too much of a workflow for me, especially if you're a wedding photographer where you have a bunch of negatives you need to go through to get scanned or develop and scanned, then go that route. But also know that this is another route that exists. And actually some labs do it this way. I think you just have to request it because it is time consuming for them. So definitely check with your local labs. They might actually have this already set up. So don't think they don't. They most likely do, especially 120 rolls of film, because I know they have to manually scan those. There's not really a machine. I don't think Frontier does it. I think they only do 35mm. But anyways, hope you enjoyed this video. Hopefully it's informational. I'm sorry if it was really long. This whole thing, the film itself is really fun for me, and I love explaining it and going through this kind of workflow process. But again, sorry if it was too long. But comment down if you have any questions about any of this or anything, like when's my birthday or my favorite color. That can count too. But anyways, thank you for watching. Until next time. But in the meantime, definitely like and subscribe. And I don't know. Hopefully I don't sound sick, because I think I might be getting sick. I don't know. We shall see. But anyways, catch you soon.